Imagine a mountain of gold, silver, shimmering like 1,000 suns, relics of unimaginable power and scrolls holding secrets that could rewrite history, all gone, vanished. This isn't a fairy tale. This is the legend of the Knights Templar treasure. For nearly 2 centuries, the Knights Templar were the most powerful and arguably the wealthiest organization in Christendom. A warrior monk order forged in the fires of the Crusades, they amassed a fortune through shrewd business, pious donations, and perhaps other darker means. They built castles, commanded armies, and held kings in their debt. But in the early 14th century, their world came crashing down. Accused of heresy, blasphemy, and unspeakable acts, they were brutally suppressed by King Philip, a Fort of France, a monarch desperate to erase his own crippling debts. Their leaders were burned at the stake. The order was officially dissolved, and their treasure, it disappeared. This is the question that has captivated historians, treasure hunters, and conspiracy theorists for centuries. Was it seized by the King of France, hidden away for a future Templar revival, or spirited away to a secret location, its secrets guarded to this very day? We begin our search not on the battlefields of the Holy Land, but in the bustling financial heart of medieval Paris. Here amidst the ancient streets and echoing cathedrals, the Templars created a banking empire, a sophisticated system that revolutionized international finance. Their innovations, their influence, and their immense wealth made them both admired and deeply resented. They possessed a network unlike any other, stretching across Europe and beyond. They were privy to secrets whispered in the halls of power. And it is within this intricate web of power and intrigue that the first clues to the Templar treasure might be found. Their Paris headquarters, a formidable fortress known as the Temple, was raided by Philip's men. A meticulous inventory was taken, but something was missing. The official record tells one story, but the whispers, the legends, the persistent rumors paint a very different picture. A picture of a carefully orchestrated escape of chests, overflowing with riches being loaded onto ships under the cover of darkness, of a treasure deliberately concealed, awaiting the day the Templars would rise again. The truth is buried deep, obscured by centuries of myth and deliberate misinformation. But by tracing the Templars' known movements, examining the historical evidence, and exploring the enduring mysteries that surround them, we can begin to unravel the enigma of the missing treasure. Our journey takes us from the opulent courts of France to the windswept shores of Scotland, from the ancient forests of Portugal to the remote islands of the North Atlantic. The chase is on. The question remains, where did the Knights Templar treasure go? And will we ever find it? The initial inventory of the temple in Paris, compiled by Philip's royal scribes, listed a significant amount of valuables: gold, silver, precious jewels, religious relics, and land deeds. Enough to impress, certainly, but not nearly enough to account for the vast wealth the Templars were rumored to possess. Skeptics argue that the discrepancy is easily explained. The Templars were, after all, a relatively new order, barely 2 centuries old. Their wealth had been exaggerated, fueled by envy and fear. The official inventory represented the sum total of their assets. Case closed. But consider this: the raid on the temple was not a surprise. Philip had been plotting against the Templars for years, and rumors of his intentions had certainly reached their ears. It is highly improbable that an organization as shrewd and resourceful as the Templars would have left their entire fortune unguarded, vulnerable to seizure. Furthermore, the inventory itself raises more questions than it answers. Crucially, it makes no mention of the Templars' vast library, a collection of ancient texts and secret knowledge that was said to be even more valuable than gold. Where did those scrolls disappear to? Were they destroyed, or were they hidden away, containing clues to the location of the greater treasure? Then there are the accounts of eyewitnesses, men who claim to have seen heavily guarded wagons leaving the temple in the days and weeks before the raid. These accounts, though often dismissed as unreliable hearsay, suggest a deliberate effort to move assets out of harm's way. And what of the Templars' international banking network? They had commanderies, or branch offices, scattered across Europe. Did these commanderies hold secret caches of wealth waiting to be accessed by Templars who managed to escape Philip's clutches? The historical context is critical to understanding the scope of this Mystery. The early 14th century was a time of immense upheaval. The Crusades, once a source of glory and wealth, had come to an end. The papacy was weak, embroiled in political infighting. Kings like Philip of France were consolidating their power, seeking new sources of revenue to fund their ambitions. The Templars, with their vast wealth and independent power, were a convenient target. Philip accused them of heresy, a charge that allowed him to seize their assets with the blessing of the Pope, albeit a Pope under his considerable influence. The accusations against the Templars were lurid and shocking. Denial of Christ, spitting on the cross, homosexual acts, and idol worship. Modern historians largely agree that these accusations were fabricated, or at the very least, wildly exaggerated. Philip's true motive was greed. He wanted the Templars' wealth to shore up his own depleted treasury. But even if Philip seized some of the Templars' assets, it's unlikely he got everything. The Templars were masters of secrecy, skilled in the art of deception. They operated in a world of secret codes, hidden symbols, and clandestine meetings. They were accustomed to protecting their assets from enemies, both Christian and Muslim. It is almost inconceivable that they would have allowed Philip to simply walk away with their entire fortune. So, where might the treasure have gone? One theory points to La Rochelle, a port city on the western coast of France. La Rochelle was a major Templar stronghold, a vital link in their maritime network. According to some accounts, ships laden with Templar gold and silver set sail from La Rochelle in the days leading up to the raid on the temple in Paris. These ships, it is said, vanished without a trace, their destination unknown. Some believe they sailed to Scotland, a kingdom that was then at war with England and openly defied the Pope's authority. Scotland offered sanctuary to fleeing Templars, and it is possible that they brought their treasure with them. The theory is supported by the presence of Templar symbols and architectural features in certain Scottish churches and castles. Rosslyn Chapel, in particular, is often cited as evidence of a Templar connection. Its intricate carvings and mysterious symbols have led some to believe that it holds the key to the Templar treasure. Others suggest that the Templar ships sailed to Portugal. Portugal was another kingdom that resisted Philip's pressure to suppress the Templars. In fact, the Portuguese king Dunis protected many Templars and even allowed them to form a new order, the Order of Christ. The Order of Christ inherited many of the Templars' assets, and it played a crucial role in Portugal's age of exploration. Some believe that the Templars' wealth helped fund these voyages, and that the treasure may have been used to explore new lands and discover new resources. The Knights Templar and the Order of Christ are intertwined in history. Did the Knights Templar leave their treasure in the safe hands of the Order of Christ? It's a plausible narrative. A third theory suggests that the Templar treasure was hidden in a network of underground tunnels and secret vaults beneath Paris. The Templars were known to have explored and expanded the city's ancient catacombs. It is possible that they used these tunnels to conceal their wealth, creating a labyrinthine maze that would be impossible for Philip's men to navigate. This theory is supported by the discovery of several hidden chambers and tunnels beneath Paris in recent years. While none of these chambers have been definitively linked to the Templars, they do suggest that the city holds many secrets yet to be uncovered. But perhaps the most intriguing theory of all is that the Templar treasure was not gold and silver, but something far more valuable: ancient knowledge. The Templars, during their time in the Holy Land, came into contact with a variety of cultures and religious traditions. They are rumored to have acquired ancient texts and artifacts that contained secret knowledge that could challenge the authority of the Church and rewrite the history of the world. This knowledge, it is said, was the true Templar treasure, and it was carefully guarded, concealed from those who would misuse it. This theory suggests that the Templar treasure is not a physical object, but an intellectual one. It is not hidden in a vault, but in the minds of those who are entrusted with its safekeeping. The treasure may be encoded in symbols, hidden in plain sight in ancient texts and architectural design. To find it, one must be able to decipher the code to understand the language of the Templars. But there is a contrasting view. Some historians posit that the treasure never existed in the first place, that it's nothing more than a myth propagated by writers, filmmakers, and conspiracy theorists hungry for a good story. They argue that the Templars, while wealthy, were not nearly as wealthy as legend suggests. Their assets were primarily in land and property, not in gold and silver, and that Philip's men seized everything of value during the raid on the temple. This view is certainly plausible, but it fails to account for the persistent rumors and legends that have surrounded the Templars for centuries. It also fails to explain the numerous unexplained disappearances and anomalies that have been linked to the Templars. Ultimately, the mystery of the Templar treasure remains unsolved. The evidence is fragmented, the clues are cryptic, and the truth is shrouded in secrecy. But the search continues. New discoveries are being made all the time, and as long as the legend of the Templar treasure endures, there will be those who are determined to uncover its secrets. The treasure may be physical, or it may be intellectual. It may be hidden in a vault, or it may be encoded in a text. But one thing is certain: the Knights Templar left behind a legacy that continues to fascinate and inspire us to this day. Their story is a story of power, intrigue, and mystery, and the search for their treasure is a journey into the heart of history itself. Where that journey will take us, nobody knows, but the allure of the unknown, the sheer depth of the historical mystery, is why the legend of the Knights Templar endures to this day. The clues are scattered, the path is unclear, but the hunt intensifies. The debate surrounding the Knights Templar treasure boils down to a few central, often conflicting hypotheses, each with its own set of compelling arguments and significant weaknesses. Let's dissect the most prominent. The first, and perhaps most widely accepted, hypothesis is the royal acquisition theory. This posits that King Philip IV of France successfully seized the vast majority of the Templar wealth. Proponents point to the meticulous inventories taken after the raid on the temple in Paris, arguing that while some items might have been smuggled out, the bulk of the Templars' assets fell into royal hands. They contend that Philip's subsequent actions, his lavish spending and ambitious building projects, were funded, at least in part, by the Templar riches. This theory gains traction from the historical record. Philip was demonstrably in dire financial straits before the Templar suppression. Afterwards, he seemed to enjoy a period of relative economic stability. However, the royal acquisition theory falters when we consider the scale of the Templar Empire. Their holdings stretched across Europe, from England to the Holy Land, and their banking network was incredibly sophisticated. It is highly unlikely that Philip's reach extended to every single commandery, every single hidden vault. Furthermore, the inventories themselves are incomplete. They fail to account for certain assets, such as the Templars' extensive library and their network of international debts. If Philip truly seized everything, why were these items missing? Critics also argue that Philip's subsequent financial woes suggest he didn't acquire as much wealth as claimed. Despite the initial influx of Templar assets, his kingdom continued to struggle financially. This suggests that either the Templar wealth was overestimated, or that Philip squandered it quickly, or most intriguingly, that he simply didn't get his hands on the lion's share. The second major hypothesis is the Scottish escape theory. This theory suggests that a significant portion of the Templar treasure was smuggled out of France and transported to Scotland, where it was hidden away for safekeeping. Scotland at the time was an independent kingdom at war with England and openly defying the Pope. It offered sanctuary to fleeing Templars, and it is plausible that they brought their wealth with them. This theory is supported by a number of intriguing pieces of evidence. First, there is the presence of Templar symbols and architectural features in certain Scottish churches and castles, most notably Rosslyn Chapel. Rosslyn Chapel is filled with strange and enigmatic carvings, some of which bear a striking resemblance to Templar symbols. Some researchers believe that these carvings are a coded map leading to the location of the Templar treasure. Second, there is the legend of the Sinclair family, a powerful Scottish clan that is said to have had close ties to the Templars. According to the legend, the Sinclairs helped the Templars transport their treasure to Scotland and protect it from Philip's agents. Third, there is the fact that Scotland remained fiercely independent throughout the 14th century, despite repeated attempts by England to conquer it. Some believe that the Templar treasure helped fund the Scottish resistance, allowing them to maintain their independence. However, the Scottish escape theory also has its weaknesses. The evidence linking the Templars to Scotland is largely circumstantial. There is no definitive proof that the Templars ever brought their treasure to Scotland or that the Sinclair family played a role in protecting it. Furthermore, the carvings in Rosslyn Chapel are open to interpretation. They could be Templar symbols or they could be something else entirely. Skeptics argue that the Scottish escape theory is based more on legend and speculation than on solid historical evidence. The third prominent hypothesis is the Portuguese preservation theory. This theory posits that the Templar treasure was transferred to Portugal, where the Templars were allowed to reform as the Order of Christ. Portugal, under King Dinis I, resisted pressure from Philip of France and the Pope to suppress the Templars. Instead, Dinis protected many Templars and allowed them to continue their activities under a new banner. The Order of Christ inherited many of the Templars' assets, and it played a crucial role in Portugal's Age of Exploration. Proponents of this theory argue that the Templar treasure helped fund these voyages, allowing Portugal to discover new lands and establish a vast overseas empire. This theory is supported by the historical record. The Order of Christ did indeed inherit many of the Templars' assets, and it did play a major role in Portugal's Age of Exploration. Furthermore, there is evidence that some Templars fled to Portugal after the suppression of the order in France. However, the Portuguese preservation theory also has its critics. Some argue that the Order of Christ did not inherit all of the Templars' wealth and that the Templar treasure was never fully recovered. They point to the fact that Portugal, like France, struggled financially in the 14th century, suggesting that the Templars' wealth was not enough to solve their economic problems. Moreover, the connection between the Templar treasure and Portugal's voyages of discovery is circumstantial. While the Order of Christ undoubtedly played a role in funding these voyages, there is no definitive proof that they used Templar gold to do so. The fourth, and perhaps most radical, hypothesis is the hidden knowledge theory. This theory suggests that the Templar treasure was not gold and silver, but something far more valuable, ancient knowledge. According to this theory, the Templars, during their time in the Holy Land, acquired ancient texts and artifacts that contained secret knowledge that could challenge the authority of the Church and rewrite the history of the world. This knowledge, it is said, was the true Templar treasure, and it was carefully guarded and concealed from those who would misuse it. This theory is supported by the fact that the Templars were known to be interested in esoteric knowledge. They studied Kabbalah, alchemy, and other occult sciences. They also had a deep understanding of architecture and engineering, which they used to build their impressive castles and churches. Proponents of this theory argue that the Templar treasure is not a physical object, but an intellectual one. It is not hidden in a vault, but in the minds of those who are entrusted with its safekeeping. The treasure may be encoded in symbols hidden in plain sight in ancient texts and architectural design. To find it, one must be able to decipher the code to understand the language of the Templars. However, the hidden knowledge theory is difficult to prove. The evidence linking the Templars to ancient knowledge is largely circumstantial. There is no definitive proof that they possess secret texts or artifacts, or that they used this knowledge to challenge the authority of the Church. Furthermore, the hidden knowledge theory is often dismissed as pseudoscience or new age mysticism. Skeptics argue that it is based more on speculation and fantasy than on solid historical evidence. Finally, we have the no treasure theory, the most skeptical viewpoint. This argues that the entire concept of a vast Templar treasure is a fabrication, a myth, perpetuated by historical inaccuracies and the allure of a good story. Proponents of this theory suggest that the Templars, while wealthy, weren't extraordinarily so. Their assets were primarily tied to land and infrastructure, not readily transportable wealth. They argue that King Philip's confiscations were thorough, accounting for the majority of their holdings. The legends of hidden riches, they contend, arose from later romanticizations of the Templars, fueled by conspiracy theories and a desire for a grand mystery. The absence of any concrete, verifiable evidence of a hidden treasure, despite centuries of searching, lends credence to this perspective. Perhaps the true treasure of the Templars was not gold or knowledge, but their innovative banking system, their powerful international network, and their enduring legacy as warrior monks. These are the hypotheses that dominate the debate surrounding the Knights Templar treasure. Each offers a plausible explanation, each has its strengths and weaknesses. Ultimately, the truth may lie somewhere in between. Perhaps Philip seized some of the Templars' wealth, but some was smuggled out to Scotland or Portugal. Perhaps the Templars also possessed secret knowledge, which they guarded even more carefully than their gold. Or perhaps the treasure is simply a legend, a product of wishful thinking and historical distortion. The mystery continues. The search goes on. The question of the Knights Templar treasure, where did it go and what did it consist of, remains one of history's most enduring enigmas. We've explored the evidence, dissected the theories, and navigated the treacherous waters of speculation and historical fact. From the halls of power in medieval France to the remote shores of Scotland and Portugal, the hunt for the Templar treasure has captivated generations. Whether the treasure was a mountain of gold seized by a desperate king, a cache of ancient knowledge hidden from the world, or simply a myth born of historical embellishment, its significance extends far beyond mere monetary value. The legend of the Templar treasure speaks to our enduring fascination with secrets, with the power of hidden knowledge, and with the enduring allure of lost fortunes. It reflects our deep-seated desire to uncover the truth, to solve the unsolvable, and to connect with the past in a tangible way. The Templars themselves, regardless of the fate of their wealth, left an indelible mark on history. They pioneered international banking, they shaped the architecture of Europe, and they embodied a unique blend of military prowess and religious devotion. Their story is a testament to the power of faith, the complexities of human nature, and the enduring legacy of those who dare to challenge the established order. The debate surrounding the Templar treasure serves as a reminder that history is not a fixed and immutable narrative, but a living, breathing entity that is constantly being reinterpreted and reevaluated. New discoveries, new interpretations, and new perspectives continue to shed light on the Templars and their world. The search for the Templar treasure is in many ways a metaphor for the search for truth itself. It is a journey that requires us to question assumptions, challenge conventional wisdom, and to remain open to new possibilities. The treasure may never be found, but the quest itself is invaluable. It forces us to engage with history, to explore different cultures, and to confront the fundamental questions of human existence. So what have we learned? We've seen that the historical record is often incomplete, unreliable. Eyewitness accounts are subjective, inventories can be manipulated, and legends can distort the truth. We've also seen that the Templars were masters of secrecy and deception, skilled in the art of protecting their assets and concealing their secrets. And we've seen that the human imagination is a powerful force, capable of creating elaborate myths and fantasies that can endure for centuries. The true treasure of the Knights Templar may not be gold or jewels, but the enduring legacy of their story, a story that continues to inspire, to intrigue, and to challenge us to this day. The mystery remains unsolved, the hunt continues, and the legend of the Knights Templar and their missing treasure will continue to captivate our imaginations for generations to come. Please like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you.